What I'm most proud of in life, those are my kids, all 6 of them. 6 children, thank you. You're like, yeah, you're flexing, buddy. Your wife should be up here flexing. I don't know, childbirth's easy though. You just say push and, what? No, that's not all their current age, just when they're smallest and easiest to deal with. And they become teenagers. Now my oldest is now 15. She's the girl in the upper left-hand corner there. That's my little Rosemary, 15 now, so I'm the dad of a teenage girl. Woohoo! Who's got a teenage girl? Yeah, scary time. But thank God for good kids who's turning out great. And you guys got an awesome parish here. I speak all around the world. This is like one of my favorite places to come. Really, something amazing happening. Be proud of that. Here's my son. I told him about the birds and the bees when he was, I think he was 11, and he looked at me for a long time, and he said, "You and Mom?" 6 times. And he said, "How long have people been doing this?" He goes, "Is there any other way?" I said, "Where?" He goes, "Where? In a church or in a hospital?" I didn't have the heart to tell him 25 feet from your room, so. This is an awkward topic to talk about with your kids. It's a lot easier to fly around the country and talk to other people's kids about this, you know? But when it's your own kids, yeah, it's not really a topic we can avoid, though. Yeah, they're eventually going to be asking us a lot of questions, and they definitely, I mean, especially in the world today, need a whole lot of guidance. I'm going to talk about, with this particular issue, what's at stake and why latex pills and shots don't protect them from it adequately. That's the first thing. 2, we're going to talk about what you're up against when it comes to raising pure teens who have a healthy approach to their sexuality. And by the end of that section 2, it's going to seem pretty dark and dismal. But don't worry, because then there's part 3. How to win the battle for raising pure teens. But before we do all that, I want to make 2 things really clear. 1, we can win the battle for raising pure teens. We can. I know that because we are winning that battle. More than half of kids in high school are not having sex. And only about 5% of virgins right now who are upperclassmen are embarrassed about it. Which is, I think, a shift from when we were in high school. All right, if you're from Generation Jeff Spicoli, if you got that, my condolences, huh? It was cooler when we were in high school to be idiots, I think. Just a little more acceptable, to be a little crazier. You know, in a lot of ways, kids are more distracted than ever, but they're getting a little more respectful and take these kind of issues more seriously. So I think when we were kids, maybe 5% would be proud of it if they were virgins. But more and more of them are proud of the fact that they're waiting. Another shift. When we were in high school, most people would say, "I don't want to get pregnant, that's why I'm waiting." It'd be fear. And fear only goes so far, right? Now, overwhelmingly, according to studies, kids who are waiting, it's because of their faith. That's awesome. See, because that'll last. That'll last through college, that'll last beyond college. Fear as a motivator doesn't last that long. So we can win, we are winning. And I can see it everywhere I speak, you know, around the country. You might expect kids to throw tomatoes at you when you're at an assembly at a high school with 1,000 kids who have to be there, and you're telling them for an hour why they should not have sex. All right? I mean, you think being a Navy SEAL is hardcore. Try that one. Most Navy SEAls would run crying out of that room that I go into. Chastity speaker, that's intense. They can make movies about us, all right? Yeah. I don't wear bulletproof or anything. But overwhelmingly, the response just blows me away. Kids will stand up and clap. What? See, because we have a message that's really compelling. It's about the love they're made for. I'm going to do that more later. So we can win. We are winning. And if you're a parent, you have more power than you think when it comes to this issue. The National Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancies interviewed like thousands of kids to find out what their main influence was when it comes to the sexual choices they made. Overwhelmingly, they did not say my boyfriend or girlfriend, TV shows I watch, my crowd that I hang out with. They said mom and dad. The parents of those kids were asked, what do you think your kid answered? Only 34% of them got the answer right. You got more power than you think. I don't know why we constantly underestimate the power and influence we have. I mean, you know the power your own parents have over you, even still. Right? You can't get away from the voice of mom and dad. And in ways that it was positive, it builds you up the rest of your life. In ways that it wasn't so positive, you go to counseling for a couple of years. But you're not getting away from that voice. You know, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the noise of the culture. You know what else is really noisy? A shallow stream. Right? You stand in front of the Mississippi, you don't hear anything. But that's the voice of a parent running through the life of a child. It's got an amazingly irresistible current to it. And when that voice is combined with the truth about the love they're made for, that's an unstoppable force. So we have a lot of reason to hope. Now, let's go on with the task at hand. First, what we're up against, why latex pills and shots don't actually save them from it. And a lot of people might think, well, what are we, what's really at stake? Not a big deal. I did this, that, and the other thing in college. Didn't really hurt me, right? And they think that on their way to the pharmacist, on the way to the counselor, right? This one particular area of a child's life, the one choice they'll make for purity or promiscuity, it impacts their happiness in almost every other area of their life. So profoundly that if we don't take their purity seriously, we're kidding ourselves if we think we take their happiness seriously. So one of the most obvious, blatant ways it could impact their happiness, what's really on the line, is 3 letters, has to do with their health, real simple, STDs. Duh. All right, sexually transmitted diseases. And this is something we should be very seriously concerned about. And I know the world throws the whole condom thing on us as the solution for the STD problem. It's not doing the trick. Okay? Have you seen the Vietnam War Memorial? Who's seen the Vietnam War Memorial? There's about 50,000 names on there. Okay, that times 10 is the amount of people in our country alone dead and buried from AIDS. Guaranteed, they all have access to condoms. It's not fixing the problem. HPV, it's killed more women than AIDS. It's spread from thigh to abdomen contact. Small percentage of people who get it get cervical cancer from it. But so many have got it, it's killed more people than AIDS. They have a vaccine, Gardasil, that protects people from 2 of the strains that cause cervical cancer. That's it. It's still going to claim a lot of lives. And yet the whole world's perpetuating this lie that just throw latex at the problem and it's all solved, right? I don't think so. The NIH, the National Institutes of Health, that's the organization in America that tells you what's good and bad for you. This is not St. Anthony of Padua Chastity Committee. They did a big study of how safe sex actually is. HIV, they found an 85% risk reduction. All the rest of those, they found insufficient evidence to determine effectiveness. Years go by, they're still calling it safe. More recent studies showed a 50% risk reduction on some of those. I have a skydiving company that parachutes open 85% of the time. Who wants to go skydiving? Yeah. You see a problem with that thinking, right? And that's how we're selling condoms to kids. I always tell teenagers, man, if you could find it on the gas station bathroom wall, it is not adequate health care. I don't care what it says on the dispensary. 75 cents, hey, health care, I'm protected. Yeah, I don't really think so. And again, we're giving them the wrong impression of how safe it actually is. There's a Colorado campus near where I live, in Boulder. There was a problem with, Boulder, the People's Republic of Boulder. Woohoo! Beautiful place. But there was a problem with girls sleeping around while drunk, and spread the word to all the teenage boys. That's considered rape, right? You go to jail for that kind of thing. So the girls sleeping around while drunk, not remembering what happened, getting STDs, getting pregnant, parents finding out about this, and they were upset, rightly so. So they had this motto. This is the parents' response that they were pushing around the campus, putting on billboards, flyers, and it was this: when you're drunk, you're likely to have sex with someone you wouldn't have lunch with, so make sure you bring a condom. Are you kidding me? Where is that thinking leading us as a society? Like they feel like they have bulletproof vests on. Where is it leading us? Today, just in the United States, over 43,000 people will get an STD. That's just today. And the math is simple, guys. This is not some Catholic theology influencing these numbers. This is very simple math. You decrease the risk this much. Everyone feels so safe, and you increase the risk takers this much. Ta-da! That's what you get. And I don't know how we're constantly overlooking this stuff. Remember in 2005, Pope Benedict XVI said that condoms are not solving the AIDS crisis in Africa. Remember that? There was an international outcry. But there were governments denouncing the Vatican, saying, how can he put his dogmas before human lives? Isn't it time to check the Catholic dogma at the door now? People are dying. Study after study shows he was right. In Cameroon, Botswana, Kenya, they showed that HIV/AIDS rose alongside condom distribution until they both leveled out. In Botswana, which one of the previous directors of UNICEF said the world has to follow the example of Botswana because they're so strong in promoting condoms, 1 in 6 people is living with HIV/AIDS. 1 in 6. We can see the same, picture painted for us in Asia. AIDS broke out in the Philippines and in Thailand in 1984. Any Filipinos out there? Woo! Awesome. Very strong Catholic country. They promoted abstinence. That was their response. Thailand, their big response to promote condoms. Today, the rate of HIV/AIDS in Thailand is 60 times higher than it is in the Philippines. We're constantly overlooking all this and constantly throwing condoms at the world as the solution to what's going to protect people from all that. Tell me, who's putting their dogmas before human lives? Is it the Pope? You don't know. I think it's the latex missionaries of the world. And it's dogma. They have a religion almost that they're following. That most of society seems to be following. This worship of sex without life, sex without responsibility. And it doesn't matter if facts interfere with that. They're not going to see the facts because they have a dogma they're clinging onto. Listen, dogmas make perfect sense if the source of your dogma is a guy who rose from the dead. Anything short of that, we should question these dogmas. Can I hear an amen? And safe sex is a dogma that's a lie, and it's costing people their lives. So I tell teenage girls all the time, you really want to have safe sex, wear what a doctor would wear if he's coming in contact with a disease that might kill him. The response is, oh, you can't have sex with it on, and amen. Exactly, that's my point. Lord have mercy on us. All right, so latex shots, pills, not sufficient protection against STDs, not sufficient protection against pregnancy either. All right, the shots and pills they give girls to prevent pregnancies, they decrease the risk of getting pregnant, increase the risk of getting an STD by about 10 times, increase the risk of getting blood clots and cancer. Depo-Provera shots. You've heard of the Depo-Provera shots? It's a popular form of birth control. It's so good at causing cancer, vets have stopped giving it to dogs. Let that sink in. We still give it to teenage girls. Whoa. You know what else Depo-Provera is good at? It's so good at killing your sex drive. There are certain states where we give it to repeat sex offenders. Too dangerous for Fido, perfect for a serial rapist, and perfect for your girl. Gee, thanks for looking out for me, Mom and Dad. I don't think so. Wow. And the birth control pill called the pill, because it's prescribed for just about everything nowadays. I don't know if you know some of the history of the pill. Back in the 60s, they invented a version they were trying out in guys. And it caused some minor shrinkage, and they stopped all testing immediately. No one's going to buy that. They tried it on girls. It killed 3 of them. They decreased the dosage and tried again. It's the same stuff that girls use now. See, hormonally manipulating them to temporarily sterilize them is actually not good for their overall health. Duh. And all the stuff, all the risks are spelled out in the package. People think, oh, why does it say that? It does. You just got to read the package, okay? So they're at risk of getting a disease, and I know they're so worried about, did I get pregnant? Okay, that clears up in 9 months or so. But these diseases don't. And gosh, talking about pregnancy, tens of thousands of women in the U.S. every year become infertile from STDs that often they didn't know they had. But they should be more worried about not getting pregnant when they're in their 30s. All right? So they're at risk of getting diseases that latex is not protecting from. They're at risk of getting pregnant in high school, which shots and pills are not a smart plan B for that. What else is on the line? Their emotional health is on the line. Their emotional health is on the line. There's a chemical released in your body during intercourse called oxytocin. It's actually also released during breastfeeding, which is interesting. God biologically hardwired certain acts to lead to lifelong commitment. Oxytocin decreases your ability to reason, increases your ability to bond with someone. You notice like memories of breastfeeding where you're kind of drunk afterwards? I tell kids it's a good time to go ask your mom for $5 or something like that. And you keep to the car. Right? So it's on a biological level, let alone a relational level. They're exposing their heart so profoundly. Well, what's the result when they're dating and sexually active and breaking up, and dating and sexually active and breaking up? Girls who have sex in high school are 3 times more likely to suffer from depression. Guys are 2 times more likely to suffer from depression. There's a journal called the American Journal of Preventive Medicine says to doctors, quote, girls who are engaging in intercourse should be screened for depression and provided with anticipatory guidance about the mental health risks of these behaviors. They found that girls who are having sex between 12 and 16 are 6 times more likely to attempt suicide. All other things being equal in their lives. So latex and shots and pills are certainly not going to protect their hearts, even if you can fully protect their skin. So their emotional health is on the line. Their future is on the line. There was a study done of 14,000 young people. This is a pretty definitive study. Check this out. Kids who are abstinent in high school are, quote, 60% less likely to be expelled, 50% less likely to drop out, 2 times more likely to graduate from college, can expect to earn 16% more throughout the course of their lives. Wow. Why is that? Might be a lot of reasons. I think one of them is that if they're having sex after school, they're not thinking about math in 8th period. And if they're the guy, they haven't thought about anything else all day. Their future is impacted from having premarital sex and from being promiscuous. Their future marriage is impacted. There's a 50% divorce rate today. It's a sad reality. Now, people who get divorced, there might be a lot of reasons behind it. This is not necessarily why. Okay, a lot of good people end up divorced for painful reasons. But check this out. Can't overlook this. People who cohabitate before marriage, divorce rate is 80%. Not making any of this stuff up. 80%. People who wait till they're married. The guys are 63% less likely to divorce. Girls are 76% less likely to divorce. Wow. So they're not bringing a bunch of baggage and broken experiences into the most important relationship of their lives. So again, when you look at all the ways it impacts their health, their emotions, their future marriage, if we say we take our kids' happiness seriously and don't take this seriously, we are kidding ourselves. That's why I think even public schools, this should be a priority, getting this abstinence message across. Because our goal isn't just to educate kids, but to raise kids who are healthy and well-balanced and happy and safe. Okay, so this is what's at stake, and why latex pills and shots don't save them. The most obvious thing we're up against is some basic biology. Testosterone. Guys, teenage guys have 20 times more testosterone in their bodies than girls. Speaking of testosterone, actually the testosterone problem goes back farther than, earlier than the teenage years. When a man is 8 weeks along in mama's belly, there's a big surge of testosterone that kicks in. It kills cells in the communication center of the brain, enlarges cells in the sex center of the brain. Does that explain a couple of things about your husband? Does it explain everything about your husband? It's not our fault. Cool. Sorry, they did another study that found that when a man is listening to another man's voice, the part of the brain that's moving is the part that processes problems and equations and stuff like that. When he hears a woman's voice, the part that's active is the part that listens to music. So if you're asking, aren't you listening to me? The answer is yes, but in a different kind of way. It sounds nice. Again, it's not our fault. All right, so we're up against some basic biology. And women also, obviously, in their teenage years are having an explosion of, if you have a teenage girl, like most of the people raise their hands, right? There's a whole lot going on there. Guys, it's a little simpler. Combined with the biology, with the hormonal explosions they experience in their teenage years, we have something called gray matter, which is parts of your brain that aren't fully formed yet. Now, we used to think the brain was pretty well formed by the time someone hit the age of 20. Neurobiologists are finding that it's still forming into the early 20s, with the frontal lobes responsible for reasoning and problem solving forming last. Does that explain a couple things about your teenager? You want to ask sometimes, what were you thinking? And the honest answer is, I wasn't thinking. I had my son, Ethan, watching his little sister for a couple minutes recently. I was like, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I come downstairs, here's what I see. She's locked in the bookshelf having fun. eating cereal. She's happy in there. She's safe. Hey, it makes perfect sense. Just lock her in the bookshelf. What can she do in there? Like, Ethan, what were you thinking? Just gives me a blank stare. Oh, that's what you were thinking. All right, so we're up against raging hormones combined with lack of formed brain. All right, 2, we're up against a culture that's waging an all-out war on promiscuity. This is not news to you, is it? Well, let's look at some of the places we see this war happening. 1, we see it on TV and in the media they watch. 82% of the shows popular with teenagers have sexual content. Only 11% of the time does it mention anything about responsibility or any consequences at all. Now that's not really a shocker if you watch TV, okay? This might be a shocker though. Pediatrics there. The pediatrics studied 1,700 kids over the course of a couple of years to see what kind of impact that TV had on them. They picked families for their comparison that, again, pretty much all things equal. Okay? Kids who had a higher exposure to sex-saturated TV progressed 2 times faster sexually. You are what you eat. All right? That's not just with food. That definitely applies to our TV, to our media, to our brains. This stuff forms us. All right, so if the people that they're watching on TV, that they're spending time with, aren't people you want them to hang out with, don't let them hang out with them on TV. It's the same thing. Really. They become their friends, right? So we see it in the media. We see it in the classroom. This is the most disturbing place that we see it. The SACS, the Sexuality Information Education Council of the U.S., Planned Parenthood, and Advocates for Youth. I love these vague names. Advocates for Youth. What are we talking about? These are the main forces behind the sex ed that gets into the curriculum at most schools. SACS developed guidelines to teach 5 to 8-year-olds about masturbation, 9 to 12-year-olds about mutual masturbation and oral sex, and to offer suggestions that are explicit to 16 to 18-year-olds. There's a curriculum called Focus on Kids. Check this out. The teacher's guide tells teachers to, quote, state there are other ways to be close to a person and show you care without having intercourse. Okay, that's great. Ask youth to brainstorm on ways to be close. The list may include holding hands, body massage, bathing together, masturbation, sensuous feeding, fantasizing, watching erotic movies, reading erotic books and magazines. I have 6 kids. I don't know what the heck sensuous feeding is. Somehow I've managed to have 6 kids without it. I doubt kids who are 16 need to be thinking about that. There was another program called Becoming a Responsible Teen. Becoming a Responsible Teen. It sends 14-year-olds to the grocery store to find condom lubricants. I know you might think these are really obscure references, okay, to programs that are never used. Both of them were promoted by the Centers for Disease Control. Disease control. This is helping control disease. Okay. Dr. Miriam Grossman wrote a book called You're Teaching My Child What? Where she outlined how Planned Parenthood workers, quote, instruct parents to tell 5-year-olds about intercourse, though explaining orgasm can wait till he's finished kindergarten. Oh, thanks. Because my 6-year-old needs to know all about what an orgasm is. This same thing, for sadomasochism, educators send teens to a website that says, though it may seem painful, those involved find the pleasure outweighs the pain. Wow. Is this stuff making it into every high school around the country? No, thank God. I go all around this country though, I can tell you, this stuff's making it into a lot of places. Why am I sharing it? You have a great town here, I don't know, you probably have some great high schools where there's some sane people who won't let this stuff get in. If you're not vigilant as a parent, it will get into the high school curriculum in this town. You gotta be aware of the fact that the bottom 1% of the slimy people in society, I hate labeling them like that, God bless them, Jesus died for them, He loves them too. But sexually, they're slimy. They're the people you wouldn't associate with. Those people somehow have risen to the top 1% of people who have influence when it comes to education. Why? Because this is their life's passion. They're obsessed, they're creepy. Somehow they got the influence. If you're not vigilant as a parent, they want that influence to be in the woodlands. So be vigilant. We see this everywhere. We see the war against purity and an explosion of pornography. Porn industry sends out 2.5 billion emails per day. They're buying up the names of children's toys as their websites, so people stumble on their sites at a really young age. One recent study that was really comprehensive showed that 90% of kids have seen porn online by the time they're 16. And most of the time it was while doing homework. And most of the time they're not going to tell their parents about it. There's direct correlations between porn and a society of sexual abuse and using people. 13% of girls in college experience attempted or completed rape, and often that's guys getting them too drunk to function and taking advantage of them. It doesn't shock me though, because a majority of young men in high school are raised in a steady diet of porn. John Paul II summed up the problem with porn very simply. He said the problem isn't that it shows too much, it shows too little. It doesn't show you a person. It shows you an object to use. So young men are raised with this way of thinking about the opposite sex. And we think it's not going to have crazy repercussions. So what's at stake? So much on the line when it comes to their health, their happiness, and latex those shots don't save them from it. What are we up against? Well, you don't have to look very far to see the forces that want to undermine what God is calling them to, what you want for them when it comes to their health and happiness with their sexuality. Now, here's time for hope. Ready? Here's how to win the battle to raise pure teens. We have to model holiness, okay? So that's number 5. We've got to model holiness. See, this is not just selling them a one isolated issue, but selling them a whole lifestyle. All right, I'm part of Generation John Paul II. Give it up for that man. I love this guy. Look, he was 82 with Parkinson's in a Roman costume. He drew more teens than Justin Bieber, One Direction, or any band in history will ever hope to draw. Because he was holy. He was real. He's beautiful. Holiness is irresistibly attractive, isn't it? Hi there. Look, if we have this as a part of a lifestyle of a joyful yes to God, that'll draw them into the overall context of life. That life is a big love story. That puts the love story of man and woman in its right context. If we're saying yes to that love story, this is all beautiful. So, 1, tell them it's about saying yes to real love. 2, tell them it's possible and set the bar high. 3, protect them. 4, talk to them. 5, model holiness to them. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect. We try to be perfect, but I know you're not. All right? And we have, insurance that covers counseling for our kids, and I'm sure that you do too. Because they might need it someday. Because we're all imperfect. But they see that this has the first place in our lives. That I get my 6 kids to sit down and shut up it's like trying to get 6 ferrets to sit down and shut up because we're going to read the gospel every day before they go to school. And they see me mess up, and they see me cuss when someone cuts me off on the freeway, and they see me go to confession. They see that this is the first place in our lives. It's all our weakness. It's about saying yes to God. 6, this might be the most important one. We've got to love them unconditionally. Check this out. There's a study done that shows that the closer a kid feels to their dad, the less likely they are to seek that security in someone else. The less likely they are to have premarital sex. The farther they feel from their dad, incrementally, the more likely they are to have premarital sex. Why is that? Because we parents are the ones that teach them their identity, their value, their dignity. The first place they learn who they are, it's me and my wife meeting our Clementine a year and a half ago. The first place they learn who they are is not by looking in a mirror. It's not by looking at their faults or measuring their accomplishments. Before they know their name, they learn who they are by looking at us, don't they? Who am I? I'm precious. What am I worth? I'm worth dying for. It's our job as parents to show them the love of the Father. That they can know, who am I? I'm precious. What am I worth? I'm worth dying for. If they have that sense of who they are deep in their gut, then you know what? Even after they fall down, even if they sin, they won't let that label from one stupid thing they did at a party that their friends in high school, I got your label now. They'll know, hey, you know what? I'm more than that. If they knew who they are in us and in Christ, They're not going to look for that security in some guy. And my goal is with my daughter, some guy approaches her, baby, you're beautiful. I want her to be like, you know what? I know, my dad said that since I was 3. I don't need that from you. But thank you. We teach them who they are. We've heard the phrase that parents are the primary educators of their children. I like this one better. John Paul II said that parents are the first heralds of the gospel to their children. You're the first evangelists to your children. You're the first one to proclaim the love of God to your children. That is so easy to talk about, so hard to do. Isn't it? Because your children, like mine, are really annoying sometimes. Parenting is really easy until you have kids. They ruin the whole thing. I could have been canonized, man, before a kid. I just polish my halo every day. But God give us the grace when they mess up to really know what unconditional love is, to convey that. As we correct them, to not look at them like this. But help me stay calm, God, when I'm like, don't poke your brother with a pencil again. There's consequences for that action. Bad decision. Really hard to do. But if we do that, they'll know who they are. They'll know who they are. I love talking to girls in chastity talk, saying that's who you are. It's almost like cliche. You're a princess. But you think it's stupid. But I actually see girls move to tears when I say that. Because they know that at their core, that's who they are. May we convey that. May they never forget it. So 1, present everything in the context of saying yes to real love. 2, tell them it's possible. 3, protect them. 4, talk to them. 5, model holiness for them. 6, love them unconditionally. 7, never lose hope. Now, I was on a TV show once talking about this, and this person called in and said, give me a break. You can't win this battle. Aren't you aware that's where the world's heading, and kids are heading this way too, and blah, blah, blah. Why do you have any hope? I said, I have hope for 2 reasons. 1, I get the message they're made for. And when we talk to kids about chastity, whenever I talk to them, I say, what I'm about to tell you is a message already written in your heart. It's going to echo with what's already there. But most of all, I have hope because of how God loves my children. And you and me have seen a little tiny glimpse of God's love in our own hearts toward our kids. The worst 20 minutes of my life, I lost my Joey for 20 minutes. He's 7 now. He was like 4 when I lost him. He ran up into the woods after some family thinking it was us when we were camping. And he found himself in the Rocky Mountains like, where am I? It took 90 seconds, kid's gone. Kids are terrifying, aren't they? 15 minutes go by. He's not responding to us as we scream his name, so I ran to the pond where we're camping, and I thought he was going to be floating here. And I'm looking for his body. And his prayer just exploded from my heart. I said, God, you've done so much good for me. You've given me a great life. You've given me so many blessings. I want you to take it all back right now and give it my son. And the scales of a parent's love and one kid outweighs everything. Everything. As messed up and imperfect as we are, we show them a glimpse of the love that breathed life and goodness and existence into nothing. A glimpse of the love that died on the cross for us. Thank God we found Joey and God didn't kill me. But he gave me a glimpse of that love. You know why I have hope? Because that love is on our side. There's no such thing as a single parent. Can I hear an amen to that? Amen. Let's say a prayer. In the name of the Father.